Dave Schatz. Mr. Engelman, would you like to come forward? Anything you want to brief us
Good
on, or
evening,
you just want to
everybody.
take some
I
Q&A?
assume it's okay to take this off for the
It's
time being. So
Fine to take
yeah.
it off.
Hi, everyone. Dan Engelman, like the mayor said, district director for Senator Schatz. I work for the senator part-time. I also work for a state senator in Southern Missouri as well. But the third year I've been doing this, so I kind of joke that I'm a summer intern. It's worked out pretty well. Ever since he became president pro tem of the Senate, obviously a lot more demands on his time. I don't know if you all get him that well. I hope you somewhat, but have a business, an underground cable business in Villa Ridge, and very busy during the day as well. So give him just a little more coverage in the district. And previously I'd worked for Congressman Blaine Luke, whom I ran the Watershed, Missouri office for him. So Franklin County is very familiar. And then Herman, Missouri is my home. So kind of situated in the middle of the district and the capital. So, but no, I think it's always important to come by here on your turf to see you, and not to have you come to the Capitol all the time, or come to us. I think it's something that I'd like to do when I was with the congressman as well. But just a few remarks, and Steve, worked with Steve and Teresa, and I'm probably forgetting Warren as well on the hello. Just work with them on some topics here, and I won't take up much of your time, Mayor and Steve. You have to give me the high sign when you're ready to move on. But I think obviously Senator Schatz has one more legislative session before he is termed out, and one more session as pro tem, importantly. So we have a great ability to impact the agenda and set the tone in the Senate. I do think that we had a very productive session. I don't know if you all would agree or not, but passed along stymied Wayfair legislation. I think will pave the way for a lot of cities to do the same. I understand I've been making the rounds in the county today, and I think there'll be an effort next spring for a lot of cities to put that on ballot. I don't know what you all have planned here. The fuel tax obviously was a big priority of the senators, and getting that done is something he's advocated for every year that he's been in the legislature. Again, some differing opinions on that, but the bottom line, MoDOT pretty soon would not be able to, provide its share. Wouldn't even be able to obtain the federal match for their programs. I think the backlog is it's huge, and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Just going forward a little bit. I think also I just want to point out tomorrow is a very special day for our state. If you're not tracking that, our 200th anniversary, August 10th. So lots of beyond that is what Steve asked me to address here. Municipal elections. I might just go through your list, Steve, if that works. Discussions and all. So that's a concern, I guess. That legislation, as I understand it, didn't move very far in either chamber. So our the county clerks are opposed to that for a variety of reasons. One, I think the workload that it would create, especially for a lot of your election judges that are elderly and they're all day, and the more work on them. So again, differing opinions on that, but that's so I don't see that getting a lot of traction just yet. Steve, you asked about MoDOT. I know, so this is my third visit to City Hall. I usually try to stop by here at least once a year. I say that, I can be here just as often as I need to be, and if the senator needs to be here as well, let us know. But if we need to be doing more there with MoDOT, let us know too. I know it's frustrating with the lack of funding. Hopefully, like I mentioned with fuel tax, 15% of that, as you all know, goes to local governments. Did talk with Ryan Piercy today. It sounds like he's been in hopefully pretty regular communication with the city. So if that's not the case, let us know. But he talked to me about some safety improvements and things that they had worked on, and some things they can do in the near term while we're waiting on funding to arrive. He was hopeful that East-West Gateway would advance that project, but that didn't happen. And please stop me here if you have some questions. I'll try not to ramble on and on about this, but ARPA funds, 447 million batch of funding that's being, I guess, will be distributed real soon, or cities are in the process of applying for those, getting set up to do that. The state's just drawn down those funds, I think, in the last few weeks. I've been talking with the state budget director on that. But as far as the additional round of funding, that will be in, it looks like we've got enough money to kind of cover the needs right now. Our state budget director is thinking January, where the state will come in and we'll have to pass a supplemental budget and additional spending authority, because they are, well, the ARPA funds, I don't know, I think rulemaking is still taking place on some of those things. So we don't have the guidance yet from the federal government about how they want those monies spent. So January we will be addressing that. Let's see, what else did you have here? Watershed, erosion, and internet access. I remember working on this a little bit last time. I had some conversations, I think, with Joe and some others about what can be done. Last year, I tried to engage Missouri Department of Natural Resources a little bit. Didn't get real far with them, but I'm wondering if these ARPA funds, might be an avenue there. Just kind of brainstorming. I'm sure you all have talked a lot. I understand you've got a USGS study going on right now. Is there, what's the, I would like to know more about that. What's the timeline on that study? Anybody want to, I'm not directed to any one person, but
It's a 2-year study.
okay. And so, wait to see, I guess, is it the strategy to wait and see what they come up with? They're going to come up with some avenues about how to, some thoughts about how to reduce that erosion.
Yeah, so we're running concurrent to some proposals we have to fix some pretty bad sites. We have a handful, 6 or so, that are in pretty critical need, 2 of which are very critical, I guess, in most everybody's opinion. So the USGS study is running concurrently to those, just to sort of ensure, I guess, should we be able to get some funds to do the repairs that are necessary, that we won't be putting extra strain on different parts of the creek once they're all fixed up.
Okay. Any direction you have for me on that, about what we can do to help in the near term?
I don't know, like, if you could give us a check for $6 million, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. We'll issue that tomorrow. So
I think Councilmember Garetano's got his hand up.
Yeah,
there.
Councilmember Garetano.
Yeah, since you asked, Dan, and good to see you again.
yeah,
Well,
good.
the state will be getting a bucket of ARPA funds that will be controlled at the state level for big capital type projects. And I think that's where we have an opportunity for the state to hopefully partner with us in trying to resolve this erosion issue, as well as the internet issue. So that's something I just want you to walk away from tonight. Keep in mind, and the senator, that Wildwood has a need here, and we'd love for you to for you guys to be aware of it, so that we can know when they're talking about it, and hopefully advocate for us, as well as us going to the Capitol. Did anybody freeze, or?
Just mentioned about the,
I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No,
Were you
I
done,
just wanted,
Councilmember Garetano?
I am done. I hope you heard everything I had to say.
I did.
All right,
did.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodwell.
I just wanted to reiterate that because of the kind of city we are, we cannot qualify for the rural
Yeah.
internet access. So we need some support from the state, most definitely, in order to augment the internet capabilities that we have in our rural areas, because the Fed funding mechanisms that we have right now are not allowing us to use those, even though we have residents that are living in the same kind of areas that many of our outstate folks are living in. So I'd really appreciate your efforts on somehow addressing that where we do have some locations around the state.
Mhm.
Outside of Springfield, you have those similar problems. Outside
Oh,
of
yeah.
Kansas City, you probably do too.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it can, I was in touch with the Department of Economic Development, our liaison there. And then, he was talking with our state's broadband director, Tim Arbeiter, about that today. And, something I mentioned to our liaison, like that could be a real legacy issue for this governor, before he leaves office, take advantage of these funds. So they've been having a lot. I picked up, they've been having some cabinet level meetings on this issue, asking for all the department directors input on where they should focus these projects, but we will do our best to run this one up the chain. And if you'll have ideas here, quote my old boss, Congressman Luke Kamar, he says, you always tell people, don't come to us with your problems, come to us with your solutions. That makes our job easier. But we'll try to come up with those as well. But it's always best when it comes from you all from local level. So there's something we can be helpful with. We sure want to be able to do it. And that issue was a little bit eye-opening for me, Steve. I think St. Louis County. I live in Gasconade County, where it's very rural, but to think that you don't have that internet coverage, and you have, you still have, even though you're not considered rural, you still have some of those areas look just like Gasconade County. But I appreciate being educated on this, being brought up to speed very much.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here tonight, and thanks for being patient with us on Zoom. There's a little bit of a lag, so I don't mean to cut anybody off, and I couldn't hear the beginning of roll call, which is why I answered yes, and I didn't realize it was the meeting was starting. So thanks for your patience. But we do have some reports if you are interested in seeing what our consultant has done in terms of walking the watersheds, kind of rating the worst areas. But I would just really like to extend an invitation to you and the senator as well. If you're in town, seeing pictures of something doesn't do it justice,
Right.
but when you're standing at the bottom of a kind of a washed out area and there's a 30-foot drop off, it feels different when you're actually in the creek. So next time, it does work better, of course, if there's not a lot of water in the creek and it hasn't just rained. But it would, I think, be powerful for you guys to see in person and put some boots on, and I can take you to areas in my ward as well. But we do know from our consultant that we're right up there in the worst areas, certainly not only in the Midwest, but maybe even in the country. So that was very eye-opening for me to learn throughout this process, is really just how bad we are, not only in the state, but in the nation. So definitely worth experiencing firsthand. And if other areas aren't experiencing it yet, it's good to know what will be coming literally downstream in other parts of the state, because it's a system. So.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I would like to do that. You probably can get me easier than the senator, but I can do my best there. But
Yeah.
there's no substitute for being on the ground and seeing it yourself. So yeah, I would love to do it and warrant a future visit.
So Dan, the last item you have is, I want to keep us on track here,
Yes,
because
sir.
we have a lot of things we got to cover tonight after you're done. Last item you haven't addressed yet, number 5, the sunshine law reform, which would exempt governmental municipalities and governmental agencies from providing under a sunshine law request contact information for, in our case, like residents who want to get a newsletter to simply be advised of the city's comings and goings. I think that State Representative DeGroat indicated he was going to be reinitiating that bill. The governor, it passed the legislature. The governor vetoed it because it was tied to something to do with some extensive bureaucracy, I guess, with the auditor. So what do you think? Can we count on you to get that, the senator, I guess, to get that moving and in the works for the next session?
Yeah, I don't know that Senator Schatz has got any issue with it.
I don't
saw
think he
it
does
looked
based
like
on-
it passed the Senate 32 or 30-1 or 32-1. So I don't know who was the no vote. It wasn't my boss. So,
No, I think he would support it.
Yeah. So, and also I was reading the governor's veto letter this morning, just kind of refresh myself on that issue. And one of the things he cited was a Supreme Court case there, and how the legislature, couldn't have known about that, how the court was going to rule when we passed that bill. But, you know, he did make a comment in there that he supported the underlying legislation. So I don't know, it seemed like some technicalities we have to work through. But yeah, we work closely with Representative Grote. Be glad to, actually, I saw him earlier today. So didn't talk about this, but be glad to work with him to more to keep that moving.
Councilor Rambo.
Yeah, thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We have a number of issues that might benefit from the senator's attention. Wondering what the process would be to invite him for a visit, maybe the lead time.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think a lot of folks here have my email information. I'm glad to get that to Karen Roach in our office, handles the schedule. I'm glad to get that to Karen, and Karen and I talk at least on a weekly basis about, you know, what's coming up in the district. And, you know, and I can't say I always win out, but
Sure.
I can do my best to elevate those things and get those to the senator. Like, you know, you really need to do this. So again, he makes the final call on what he attends, obviously, but I can be glad to play a part in that.
So it'd be as simple as Mr. Cross reaching out to you or to the
Yes.
senator directly, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Reach out to me. And then, you know, like I say, I mean, he's got a lot of irons in the fire. And that way we get it, you know, on a list that, you know, we keep a running list of scheduling requests. So that way it doesn't get lost in the process.
Well,
That's the goal anyway.
we are the second biggest city in his district, so I hope
Yeah.
that's an iron in the fire too. So,
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Any other questions for Dan?
Thank you all for your
So,
time.
yeah.
So appreciate
And
it.
I would underscore your comment earlier, the vote on the gas tax
Yeah.
was certainly controversial. I mean, particularly given that the voters said no to that.
Yeah. You know, I tell people that I'm not here to get in a back and forth on that at all, but I tell people it was I think a different question that voters were asked last time. It was you know, Olympic medals and highway patrol and different things. And I think it had a very, very confusing ballot title. And I think my experience is that if you're confused or not sure about something going in the ballot, you either leave it blank or you vote no. So I don't know it was quite apples to apples to compared to previous efforts. I think we had a sales tax effort as well. I know that we did, and you know, a lot of people saw that as unfair if you're not driving the roads. But here it is: we have a user fee. And I respect your opinion, what you have to say, but also I think there's a very clever, interesting provision in it that there is a rebate provision. So if
With
you're
a lot of work.
if you're opposed to paying adamantly opposed to paying the tax, there's a mechanism for you. Our friends in South Carolina have implemented that, and that's where that idea came from. So there is a mechanism. I don't know too many other taxes where you can have an opt out. So anyway, yeah.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Question, you mentioned that a rebate has been initiated in South Carolina. Do you have any information as to what the response to that procedure has been?
I know that I can follow up with you with that information, but I know that with the discussions over Missouri legislation, it was estimated that perhaps as high as 20% of people on the high side would take advantage of that provision. And certainly, you know, if you looked at the legislation, you know, big trucks and, you know, if you're over 26,000 pounds, I think is the breaking point where you don't get a cut on the tax, but I can definitely get that for you.
So about 20% have taken advantage of it.
That's what was estimated. I don't know if South Carolina is quite that high, but somewhere in that ballpark. I think.
My recollection is, Dan, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but as a practical matter, with all due respect,
Yeah.
I think the time it takes to assemble all the documentation needed to do it probably eats up the worth of requesting the rebate.
Yeah, but
So-
again, you know, if you're fundamentally opposed, there is an avenue for you. So
Principal cost money, is it?
anyway, yeah. Yes.
All right, Councilman.
Question about the Highway 100 safety issues.
mhm.
Since we are running into some roadblocks with MoDOT on those, to get them completely done within our 5-year strategic plan, do you have any other ideas other than what you've already spoken about?
I don't know, for one's information, I did talk with Ryan Piercy today just to get an update because it'd been a few months since I've had worked with that project. And, he told me about some things that are term and whatnot. But I don't have a ton of ideas for you right now. I will talk to the senator about it. Obviously he's been chair of the Senate and the House Transportation Committees. So he's got a lot of expertise in this area. And perhaps he's got something, but you and I talked earlier, I'm just kind of think about Washington, Missouri, how I'm not saying this is a solution or anything like that, but they wouldn't have a 4-lane today out to 44 if they hadn't initiated a tax and tax themselves to get it done. So, I think council member, you posed a question, or you're thinking there are some things that we ought to do ourselves to get this moving along. And I don't know, what that looks like or what the city's appetite for that would be, but, we're just kind of brainstorming at this point. But I think it's probably going to take some outside the box thinking about how to do it because the need is there. Obviously there's people getting hurt and, I'm sensitive to that. Like to see that senator is too, like to see that reduce. So I don't know, what the right answer is for it. I'd be glad to, again, take your suggestions.
So we're going to have to get going. Dan, could you take the issues, the questions that have been presented tonight and maybe get an email back to Steve with responses on each one of them, and he can distribute that to all of us so we can kind of get something firm here to move forward and make the time you spent this evening worthwhile.
Sure, absolutely. And Steve, I will work to get you that this week. I'm on the road for a lot of this week, but we'll get you that as soon as possible. So yeah, love to keep the conversation going. So
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it. Okay, moving next, council members, into information. We have 13 before we go to action items. Is there anything under information that any member of the council would like to discuss or about which you may have questions? Councilmember Clark.
Just a note for the Celebrate Wildwood under in the paperwork that was put out, term deaf interpreters. Deaf interpreters is a term used for interpreters who are deaf. So it would be interpreters for the deaf or just ASL interpreters.
We'll make that correction.
Thank you.
Anything else under information? Councilmember Nyan.
I just had a question on the parking at the ball fields. Do we know if they have any plans to enlarge their parking areas? I know, if there's a tournament and there's that many people, I understand I don't want them parking, along pond. It's not safe. But I mean, what is their option going to be? Or I don't know if it's maybe not our problem, but I just wondered.
Joe Vinich, do you know the answer to that question? Or Rick?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Brown.
Rick, do you know the answer to that question?
I will do my best, Mayor Bolin. Council member, I'm not aware of any current initiatives on the part of Palm Ballpark to expand their parking. I know their site is fairly limited for a variety of reasons, so I suspect it would be challenging for them to add much additional parking at this point. I think the situation is generally managed with the existing signs that are out there and the police putting up additional signs and being aware when the ball tournaments are ongoing during the summer. So most of the signs are already in place. The request to add the parking restriction is merely trying to get that on the books so the signs that are out there primarily can be enforced.
Comments on your request relating to 465 Form B Road Ward 6. Anything you'd like to say about that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the Department of Planning has prepared for your consideration tonight a report relating to a variance request that's been submitted by a property owner that has constructed a private roadway to his 10-acre parcel of ground. In the background associated with the report, you can see this has been an ongoing issue between the property owner needing better access to his 10-acre parcel of ground and then the property owner that the easement was granted onto. Over the years, there have been a lot of discussions and actions actually by City Council to try to address this situation to the benefit of the two property owners. Ultimately, that led to the establishment of an easement that improves access to the 10-acre parcel of ground, and then a waiver from both the Eureka Fire Protection District and the City Council to accommodate a lesser construction specification. Ultimately, the majority of the road has been constructed, but now both parties, the property owner needing the better access and the property owner where the easement is located, have asked that the road be accepted as is. And that's a substantial road, as you can see from the specification, 4 inches minimum of subbase and 6 inches of asphaltic concrete type X. So it's much improved over the gravel surface that used to provide ingress and egress for all parties. The department is supporting the request. This is the first time in recent memory that the two property owners have agreed on a situation. I've talked with the fire marshal at the Eureka Fire Protection District, and they are okay with the variance as long as the surface can accommodate the gross vehicular weight of 75,000 pounds. And so as you can see in the report, the department is supporting the variance based upon the submittal of an as-built survey and an engineer's statement saying that the current configuration and specification of the roadway will meet the Eureka Fire Protection District's request. Tonight, the department is advising you of the variance and its planned action. If there is an objection, I sure would like to hear it tonight so as I can address it as part of the department's action thereafter. Thank you.
And Joe, what action are you requesting of the council this evening?
If there is no objection, I will need no action.
Is any member of the council in objection to the recommendation of the department? Ward 6 in particular. Seeing no objection, Joe, I think you know where to go with that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation, each of you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next is the Wall That Heals application. Joe, do you want to say anything about that?
Mr. Mayor, I will briefly set the table and then I'll let others on City Council that have initiated this and put much effort into it, take it from there. The Planning and Parks Committee was presented this matter by Councilmember Garitano. The Planning and Parks Committee agreed that this would be an excellent opportunity. Thereafter, a report was forwarded from the committee to City Council. That report was received at the last City Council meeting in July, and the members supported it. The department was authorized to prepare the application and submit it to the organization. Tonight, the department is seeking authorization to proceed. It has provided script that would be included in the application, although Ms. Clark has revised that script. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Garitano and Ms. Clark from here. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have anything new on this? I think we had a pretty good conversation at the last council meeting relative to this. Joe or Councilmember Clark, you want to say anything additional? Feel free.
I don't, and I apologize if there's background noise here, just at this time, there's some mowing going on. So I think you're right, Mayor, that we have discussed this and certainly the committee. So I don't believe there's any new information other than we'd like to submit the application for consideration that we would hopefully be selected in the year 2022 for this event.
Okay. Councilor Clark, anything to add?
I have nothing to add. My recommendations were just to make it a little softer than formal in the presentation.
Is there a motion? Councilmember Bartoni makes a motion to move forward, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing Councilmember Rambo.
Very quickly, this assemblage is 400 feet in length, and it requires a grass field. They can't put it on asphalt. And so it's not too soon, given our topology around here, to be scouting for a location that's suitable, as we move forward with the application. That's all I wanted to mention.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, time capsule for the bicentennial concerning our Historic Preservation Commission. Joe, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members, the Historic Preservation Commission of the City of Wildwood was advised at the start of this year about a bicentennial celebration to be held by the state of Missouri. As was just noted by the senator's representative, the actual anniversary is tomorrow. One of the items the Bicentennial Commission came up with was a time capsule, and they opened that opportunity up to organizations, cities, others. The Historic Preservation Commission of Wildwood thought it was a great opportunity and spent several meetings discussing it and bringing together materials that would meet the requirements to be included in the time capsule, as well as, I think, accurately reflect the past, present, and future, not only of Wildwood, but this area as a whole. That packet was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission and endorsed. It was a labor of love, so to speak. And tonight it is being presented to City Council. From the department is if there are alterations, or even if there are some, the department would like to receive authorization to submit the packet for the time deadline is this Friday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Joe, or would someone like to make a motion? Councilmember Dodwell.
I'm losing my voice again. I'll make the motion, but I had a few questions for you, Joe. Are each of these items that are shown here going to have some type of line on it that has the city logo, the date it was created, and the date that it was supplied for the time capsule, something that certifies it or says where it came from? Or are they just going to be these white pieces of paper with photographs of the various components on them?
The point is well taken. There was a request, in fact, from our Historic Preservation Commission to make sure that we had the Wildwood logo on each of the items. I failed to remember that, so we will add that. And in terms of a date and time stamp, I'm sure we can figure out something that would be appropriate place on each of the items and visible enough as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the time frame of the photos or the documents are listed, as well as the time frame of when these were provided is listed, so that if somebody's going back in time, they have some reference to these materials. And with that, I will make a motion that we move forward with this activity.
So we have a motion. Is there a second by Councilmember Rambo? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, Councilmember Edens, I didn't mean to cut you off there. That was an aye in favor, I assume. All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving next to the Watershed Erosion Task Force Second Phase Work Program permitting matters. Joe, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again. Mr. Mayor, members, as you all are aware, over the course of the last 2+ years, the Watershed Erosion Task Force has used a group of consultants to do many steps or activities. The Culmination of that effort over 2+ years has been the identification of 6 projects of critical importance, the establishment of cost estimates from an engineer to engineers, the review by the Department of Planning. The Erosion Task Force has identified projects of critical importance, that being the Triple Leander in Cox Creek and the detention facility by Anniversary Park. While the task force looks for funding sources, and they continue to do so with all efforts pointed in that direction, they believed it would be appropriate to begin the preliminary permitting process for those 2 projects. The rationale is that permitting through certain federal and state agencies can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So as fundraising is underway, the thought was to get our foot in the door, so to speak, get comments from those federal and state agencies, incorporate them into the plan development as it proceeds, and just be a step ahead when the time is appropriate. The cost to develop and submit those permits and respond to comments both from federal and state agencies is approximately $17,800. The Watershed and Erosion Task Force endorsed such and wanted its recommendation forwarded to City Council for consideration. Tonight, the department is presenting that recommendation from the task force and is endorsing such. The department believes that with appropriate mid-year budget adjustments, which have already been discussed relative to the USGS 2-year study, that the 2 consultants can proceed forward and begin the permitting process that is essential to the repairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe, or does anyone want to make a motion? Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yeah, Joe, I appreciate your comments regarding the.
Is your microphone on, Councilman Rodden?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Try it again. Thank you very much, Joe, for your comments. Once we answer the questions regarding where our funding sources are, and we know that the funds are available, how soon after that could we actually begin to fix some of the issues pertaining to the erosion challenges that the city faces?
Councilmember Uttenberg, I'm sure that if Rick and I put our heads together, we could give you a pretty accurate assessment. But at this stage, we're still trying to identify funding. And we actually have an agency, the department with the state of Missouri, that is interested now. One of the things they told us early on is, once you have a project, get back to us and we know we can maybe do something. And we have that now. We have 2. So funding, but with the permitting, we'll also need to refine the engineered drawings and ultimately get an engineered set of plans that can be biddable. And all of that will probably take into at least the spring, if not early summer of next year. And so if I were to offer a positive or optimistic assessment, hopefully sometime in the latter part of 2022, we'd be in a position with funding available to proceed. Mr. Brown, what do you think?
Joe, I would concur with it. I think that's a reasonable assessment on your part. I would think that's a fair summary.
Oh, I did it again. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. I know there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that have to fall into place properly.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or motion? I'm sorry, Councilmember Garitano.
Yeah, my question was, actually, I have 2 questions. First question was about how long the permits are to, how long do they last before they expire, given how much time will need to be taken to go through with the engineering and then determining what kind of funds are available. And certainly if the estimates of the work are able to be funded by the city. So that was my first question. And then Joe, I was just wondering, looking at this here, are these, because I didn't have much of a description of the locations, other than I think the Triple Meander is off of Strecker Road. But were these the top priority items, the 1 and 2 items that came out of the watershed erosion?
Yes, sir. Both Dr. Hammer, the two consultants that are the engineering team, Joe and Todd Wagner, as well as the Watershed Erosion Task Force, settled on these two as the top priorities. And I would defer to Councilmember Former as one of the co-chairs if he would like to discuss or speak. Thank you.
Councilmember Farmer, would you like to say anything about the priorities?
Those are the two top priorities.
All right. Is there a motion? Councilor Farmer,
I will make the motion
to move forward as
to move forward with the permitting process as necessary.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember McCutcheon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, that takes us into miscellaneous receipt and files. We have a few of these. Joe PZ 21-21 Rademeyer Game Court.
With the assistance of Mr. Jacqueline, which I much appreciate, the zoning commission approved an outdoor game court at its last meeting on August 2nd. The location of the outdoor game court is the area that's highlighted in what I call the turquoise color. You can see the game court at the rear of the lot. The Planning and Zoning Commission noted the appropriateness based upon support of the nearby neighbors as well as the homeowners association. Additionally, as you can see, the lot abuts an area of common ground that is substantial in size and is isolated and would not be seen from the road nor cause any issues relative to projectiles, etc. There was a little stumble on the part of the Department of Planning regarding a light standard that wasn't noticed in the first site inspection. And my apologies to all, but that particular light standard will be going to our Board of Adjustment. And the good news is the light standard does comply with our outdoor lighting requirements for the most part. And the Rademeyers, the petitioners and property owners have agreed to address any problems with the light standard, bring it in good compliance. Therefore, tonight, this is a receipt and file. If there's any questions regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission's action, the Department of Planning would be glad to try to address them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions from any member of the council relative to PZ 21-21? All right, seeing none. Joe PZ 6-20 Fixed Supply.
Again, with Mr. Jacqueline's assistance, I'll be able to show a graphic. As you know, Dave Fick has had an operation in the city of Wildwood almost since the inception of the city of Wildwood. It started with a small parcel of ground that now houses his office, storage area, and vehicular parking. Excuse me. Mr. Fick expanded into an area along the levee back in 2017. And at that time, City Council granted the right to do composting instead, including the previous activity of mulch processing. Most recently, Mr. Fick added an additional 10 acres on the southern tip that is shown in the hatched area. Now, collectively, Mr. Fick's operation is about 31 acres in size. The Planning and Zoning Commission received the amended site development plan that is presented here tonight and endorsed it and approved it for development. The major change is the access area with the larger trucks that have been frequenting the site as the composting operation has grown. The current access point onto North Etherton Road, a county arterial, was not sufficient. So it is to be widened. That widening has been reviewed by the St. Louis County Department of Transportation and Public Works and approved. Therefore, the Planning and Zoning Commission accepted it as well. This is a receipt and file. If there are any questions, the department would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is in Ward 1. Any questions for Joe? All right, seeing none. Next, Joe PZ 19-14, the Manors at the Meadows of Cherry Hills.
And again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, This particular item is just to kind of close the loop on a discussion that's been ongoing, more so at City Council than the Planning and Zoning Commission. As you know, to save a grand tree, and in the opinion of the department and others, to improve the area of the trail for the pedestrian bridge. Revisions were made. Those revisions were endorsed by the City Council through a change order with the selected contractor. And to keep everything in order, the planning was second, and at that meeting approved it. This is a receipt and file as with the last two items, and the department's available to answer any questions regarding it at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Joe regarding PZ 19-14? All right. I think that's it, is it not? Yep. Looks like we got through that. Okay. One thing I just want to mention under miscellaneous personal privilege, as you know, this next Friday will be Julian's last day with us, and that means tonight is his last meeting with the council. So Julian, I just want to, first of all, thank you for the work that you've done for the city while you've been with us. And second, on behalf of all of us, I want to wish you all the best as you move forward in your career. Okay. Councilmember Rambo.
Julian, would you hold up your name?
Very nice.
Mr. Jackson made that.
Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay. All right, that takes adjournment. If someone would like to make a motion to adjourn, we'll adjourn the work session and start the council meeting right at 7 o'clock. Motion to adjourn made by Councilmember Ottenberg, seconded by Councilmember Bartoni. Non-debate with the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry again, Ms. Edens. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the motion passes. We will start the council meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, August 9, 2021 for the City of Wildwood. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Bolin,
Here?
Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Hopper,
Here.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Here.
Councilmember Bertolino, Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Edens,
Here.
Councilmember Bros,
Here.
Councilmember Garitano,
Here,
Councilmember Flasher,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo, Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Okay, thank you and welcome again. For those of you who are comfortably able, you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the council's July 26, 2021 meeting. If there are no corrections or questions relative to the minutes, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Made by Councilmember Flasher, seconded by Councilmember Hopper. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving next to public participation. Public comment is a valuable component of our meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak must complete a speaker card and provide it to the city clerk who is seated to the left of the podium. When your name is called, please approach the podium and state your name and ward. To ensure that all who wish to speak have the opportunity to do so, there is a 5-minute time limitation, and I will let you know when the time limit is reached. If you have any questions for us, please mention that during your remarks and identify the official you would like to respond. That official will make note of it, and at the conclusion of public participation, any official who chooses to respond will have 3 minutes to do so as to all questions directed to that official. The official may choose to respond to your questions after tonight's meeting, and we may also post any responses on the City Council page of our city website. And finally, please be respectful to others in making your remarks. This means that interrupting others and using profane and abusive language are prohibited. And I want to thank everyone in advance for following these. First speaker card, please.
The first speaker card I have is from Edward Cohn.
Good evening. My name is Edward Cohn. I'm a resident of Ward 3 since 1972. In addition, I'm the managing member of Wildwood GB2 LLC. We own approximately 10 acres of ground fronting on the south side of Main Street and on the east and west side of Taylor Road. Part of that 10-acre piece is a 2.5 acre tract that I'm a joint venture partner with Michael Kennedy for Prime Place. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to tell you that we are working very hard to get this project done. We're working through weekly meetings with HUD. These are our worksheets. Every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, we have a telephone Zoom meeting, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to go over this. And that's just for financing. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have already been spent on drawing, civil engineering. I mean, we are moving forward with this with as much speed as we can and as carefully as we can, considering we're talking about a project of roughly $30 million. At this time, I can confidently say that I have a commitment of the 10,000 square feet of retail space. I've got 8,000 square feet that have been committed to at this time. What I don't understand is the time frame involved. When we came to the Planning and Zoning Commission and asked for an extension, the Department of Planning suggested an 18-month extension. Chairman Michael Lee suggested it should be 24 months, which was approved. It becomes for the city council and it gets cut to 6 months. I think we should have fair and equitable treatment. Mary Kay Corsair got approval of an 11-acre tract of ground for multiple family in 2008. Never had a buyer, never had a developer, and that stayed in place for approximately 12 years. I just think that we should be treated fairly. We're working hard, and we hope to break ground by the end of this year. I'm open for any questions.
So this is just your time to mention your remarks. We don't do Q&A at this point.
Very well.
Okay.
Understood.
Thank you so much. Next speaker card, please.
The next speaker card is from Tony Salvatore.
Hi, my name is Anthony Salvatore, 2701 Autumn Run Court. Phone number is 636-675-2231. We have a dictatorial, power-hungry, vindictive, egotistical mayor in the city of Wildwood. His actions show that the U.S. Constitution, the Missouri state laws, the city of Wildwood ordinances, and charter do not apply to him. His name is James Boland. He, along with City Administrator Ryan Thomas and the City of Wildwood, were defendants in the federal lawsuit that was filed for violating my First Amendment rights. Case number 4:19-CV-00660-SRC. The case was settled for $295,000, and the city has to make numerous changes. How dictatorial and abusive of power is he? I will quote Mr. Joe Vunich's own words during his deposition on February 14th, 2020. Mr. Vunich has been the Director of Planning and Parks for the city of Wildwood since its inception in 1995. He has over 36 years of public service. Question to Mr. Vunich. Do you know if anyone besides Mr. Salvatore had ever been stopped by police officers for holding a political sign in public property? Mr. Vunich, I don't. Question, and so do you believe that the referral to the prosecuting attorney in Mr. Salvatore case is appropriate? Mr. Vunich, no, sir. Question, have you ever seen this type of action being taken before Mr. Salvatore's campaign? Mr. Vunich, no, sir. Question, so as a Director of Planning and Parks for 25 years, you're in the same role for 10 years in St. Louis County, and you have a master's degree in this very thing. Do you believe that the First Amendment protects someone who's standing on a sidewalk holding a sign? Mr. Vunich, I think that the First Amendment should be protected. I think free speech is imperative in a free country. Question, okay, so do you believe if someone's on a sidewalk that holding a sign, for example, it's safe or unsafe? Mr. Vunich, safe. Question, do you recall sending an email to Captain Tanner regarding something Mr. Werther did? And Mr. Werther used to be the mayor here, and at the time he was councilman. And you remember sending the email? Mr. Vunich, yes, sir. Question, and what was the nature of the email? Mr. Vunich, the mayor had contended that Tim Werther had removed a public document from City Hall without permission. Therefore, he was concerned about a potential criminal action. Now, this is why I'm adding to this. Document in question was a sentence or two that Councilman Werther had written on a scratch pad. Question, who was concerned about a potential criminal action? Mr. Vunich, the mayor, Mayor Boland. Question, were you concerned there was a criminal action? Mr. Vunich, absolutely not. Question, so was law enforcement contacted about what Mr. Werther did? Mr. Vunich, yes, they were. Question, but you disagreed with that. Mr. Vunich, very much, sir. There's an email that I sent to the collective group that basically stated, I thought it was morally wrong to do what we were doing. Question, are you familiar with Councilman Bopp? Mr. Vunich, yes. Question, are you familiar with Mayor Boland's repositioning where he sits at the council meetings? Mr. Vunich, yes, sir. Question, do you have an opinion about how Mayor Boland handled that situation? Mr. Vunich, I think it was a terrible what he did. Question, what changed in 2016? Mr. Vunich, Councilmember Boland was elected mayor. Now, I also got a letter today from the Attorney General's office because I had sent him the same letter I sent all of you at council. You've received that letter, hopefully. I sent it over a week and a half ago. And here is his reply. I think you can see right there. It says, "Dear Mr. Salvatore, thank
So
you for
Mr.
bringing."
Salvatore, how much more do you have?
I have 4 minutes and 45 seconds here. I still have about another minute, 15 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep it to 30 because we have to follow the time
Thank you
rules.
for bringing your
Mr.
concerns
Salvatore,
regarding
Mr.
the mayor.
Salvatore, we're
Yes.
going to keep it like we do for everyone. So you have 30 seconds, please.
No, we don't have that. You started talking to me at 4:45. I said it right here.
We'll make
Okay,
it an
thank
even-
you for
we'll
bringing
make
your
it an even
concerns
minute, Mr.
regarding the mayor of
Salvatore.
Wildwood, Jim Boland, to the attention of our office. Our office believes that constitutional rights should not be unduly hindered. We will continue to monitor situations like those in your correspondence to determine if action by our office will be necessary to ensure that First Amendment rights of Missourians are protected. Now, none of you answered me, but Mr. Smith did. So evidently, you guys think it's okay to go ahead and impugn somebody's First Amendment rights. So I'm asking you right here, Federal Judge Clark said the court finds Salvatore has sufficiently established he suffered a constitutional injury. I send all of you the same letters to the Attorney General, but I have yet to hear from any of you, not so much as a beep. So it's okay for Mayor Boland to go ahead and take somebody's rights away because you guys agree with him. So I take it you're all complicit in this. Additionally,
So Mr. Salvatore, it's
what do
time-
any of you think?
Mr. Salvatore, it's time to wrap it up.
Okay, I got one question. I request that Wildwood City Council remove Mayor James Boland immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card, please.
I don't have any more speaker cards.
Okay, Julian, do we have anyone online that wants to speak?
Mr. Mayor, we do have one individual, Ben Kruger, and I will move him over right now.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Hello.
Kruger, hello, if you could please state your name and your ward. And did you hear, before you begin, did you hear the things I mentioned about public participation earlier before we started?
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect. So if you'll just state your name and ward and go forward, that would be great.
Sure. Great. Yes, my name is Ben Kruger. I live in Ward 8 within the Town Center District. We became residents of Wildwood since March of 2019. We made the decision to move to Wildwood in February of 2018. At that time, the street we live on, Center Avenue, was crumbling and in desperate need of repair. We have made the decision to build on this street only with the understanding that Wildwood had agreed to take the street over from private ownership and to provide a complete replacement of Center Avenue, and that would be made in the near term. Our builder provided significant funds that were requested of the city to ensure the completion of the project. The rest of the funding would be provided by the city of Wildwood. We reviewed the city website and found that indeed plans were posted for this improvement project, and money was already earmarked within the city budget. Now fast forward 3.5 years, Center Avenue remains an eyesore and a danger to anyone using it. Center Avenue provides shared access with East Avenue, one street over, to 2 subdivisions, Stone Mill Estates and Bordeaux Estates. Speaking to Center Avenue, it's nearly impossible to pass another vehicle on the road without, riding into a neighbor's yard. Potholes are plentiful and more are popping up almost daily. There's, absolutely zero stormwater management. So over the past few years, we have attended several meetings between Wildwood Planning Department and the Center Avenue residents with honestly no real progress. At these meetings, we have watched Wildwood officials make verbal promises to the remaining homeowners that still have rights to the street. We leave those meetings feeling like we're moving in a positive direction. Later, we find out that Wildwood has caused delays in following through on those verbal commitments. Wildwood delays in documenting the verbal promises appear to be kind of at the core of this issue. We were surprised to learn recently that funding for this project was actually removed from the 2021 budget. We need the attention of the board to help move this project to completion and provide the necessary budget needed in 2021. I ask that this project get added to the board's agenda going forward until the project is complete. I invite each of you to drive up Center Avenue and see what we have been dealing with these past few years. Our safety, our home values, and our property continue to be negatively impacted as the project delays and delays and delays. I'm confident that you guys will agree that Center Avenue is unsafe and in desperate need of replacement and expansion as promised and planned for by Wildwood years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others, Julian? Okay, so I think no other speaker cards, Ms. Eldridge. All right. So thanks to each of you who spoke this evening. We appreciate it. Moving next into mayor announcements and appointments. We do have a couple of appointments that I wanted to put on the agenda at this point, just given that they're not reappointments and the boards as to which the appointments relate. The first is Mr. Chris Preston from Ward 1 to our Board of Public Safety. This term will end in 2024, and you have my memo relative to his background and willingness to serve. He is with us this evening. Chris, if you want to say hello, there you go. And so we appreciate him being here. If any of you have any questions for him, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. If there are no questions, I would ask for a motion to approve the appointment as presented. Made by Councilmember Bros, seconded by Councilmember Clark. Any discussion on the motion to approve the appointment as presented? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve the appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Mr. Preston, and welcome to the team. Appreciate your willingness to participate. Next is Mr. Lawrence Clayton, also known as Larry, from Ward 4. This is an appointment to our Planning and Zoning Commission as the Ward 4 representative that is necessitated by the fact that Mike Lee has been on there for 2 terms. And we're going to talk about him moving to another board here shortly to keep him involved. So you have the background information on Mr. Clayton. I've met with him. He comes highly recommended by his council members for Ward 4. And so I'm sure he would be happy to entertain any questions, answer any questions you have for him. If there are no questions, then I would ask for a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Clayton to our Planning and Zoning Commission as presented. We have a motion from Councilmember Dodwell to approve the appointment, seconded by Councilmember Farmer. Any questions for Mr. Clayton? This is a significant appointment. Want to make sure everyone's all good. All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Larry. We appreciate it. All in favor of the motion, seeing no discussion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Larry. You are now a member of the team, and I look forward to working with you on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Appreciate your willingness to serve as well. Next, we have one public hearing. Ms. Eldridge, do you want to read it, please?
The city of Wildwood, Missouri will hold a public hearing to discuss the estimated allocation of $25,500 in community development block grant funds, which will become available after January 1st, 2022. The public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. on Monday, August 9th, 2021 at Wildwood City Hall, Council Chambers, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. The allocation of this amount of funding must be accomplished upon eligible projects, which in the past have included but not been limited to the following: installation of handicap accessible ramps within public rights of way areas of Wildwood, provision of senior programming opportunities, participation in the home improvement program, and modifications to the city's website for special needs groups and their use herein. To further its commitment to fair and equitable treatment of all citizens, the city of Wildwood, Missouri has enacted and/or enforces the following: a fair housing ordinance prohibiting unlawful discrimination against any person because of race, sex, color, religion, disability, familial status, or national origin. A policy of non-discrimination on the basis of disability in the admission or access to or employment in its federally assisted programs or activities. A policy of equal opportunity to participate in municipal programs and services regardless of race, color, religion, sex, age, disability, familial status, national origin, or political affiliation. And a requirement for bidding on CDBG activities that promotes employment opportunities created by HUD funding, and that these opportunities be afforded to low-income community residents and businesses.
Thank you. Joe, do you have anything you want to mention relative to this item? Joe Benich?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, to follow the parameters of the public hearing, I would note that there is a sign-in sheet on the table at the rear of the council chambers. So if anyone does speak, I would respectfully request that they sign in and provide the needed information. Secondly, in preparation of tonight's public hearing, the Department of Planning made copies of a handout from the Community Development Block Grant Program that describes what is a Community Development Block Grant, the national objectives of the program, the eligible and ineligible activities associated with it. The intent of the City of Wildwood is to expend $25,500 on eligible projects in the year 2022. Those eligible projects will primarily consist of senior programming, accessible improvements, and others. Tonight, the Department of Planning is seeking input not only from City Council, but the general public of Wildwood and elsewhere on the proposed projects, the amount of funding, and its use in 2022. Mr. Mayor, if there are any questions of the Department of Planning regarding this particular matter, it would be glad to answer them at this time, as well as any that may be raised by the public that speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any cards for this, Ms. Eldridge?
No cards and no one has signed in on the sign-in
Okay,
sheet.
thank you. Any questions for Joe? There's no action required tonight. This is just a hearing. Okay, thank you, Joe.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry,
I have a favor
Councilor
to ask.
McCutcheon. Councilor McCutcheon.
Yeah, I just wonder if maybe some of Council Members Clark's ideas could possibly be funded through the CBDG grants.
Mr. Benich.
Mr. Mayor and Ms. McCutcheon, I certainly think they can. It was discussed at the Administration Public Works Committee meeting this past Tuesday. I believe we're working toward doing as many of those things that we can as possible. And my favor is, before we conclude the public hearing, I need to take a screenshot so I can include it in the application packet back to St. Louis County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't you do your screenshot? Smile.
Done, sir, and I thank you.
We smiled, Joe. It should look good. All right. Moving next into legislation, second readings. First on the list, Bill 2628 is before the council for final passage, and it concerns wards 1, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Dodwell, seconded by Councilmember Flasher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2628.
Bill 2628, an ordinance of the City of Wildwood, Missouri that endorses the action of the Planning and Zoning Commission in its adoption of the 2021 Town Center Plan Update after extensive study, and therefore ratifies changes to the Charter's comprehensive zoning plan, which reflects the regulating plan component of this aforementioned document, third reading.
Thank you. Joe, do you have anything further, Joe Benich, to mention relative to this bill that has not been provided to the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and very briefly, as the City Council is aware, 2 weeks ago, the department respectfully requested a postponement of the bill's final passage. That was due to an error on its part relating to Section 3. Section 3 of the ordinance has now been changed, and that reflects a discussion between the owners of the Slavic tract of land, our city attorney, Mike Doster, and the Department of Planning. For the most part, it provides protections relative to the Slavic tract if something were to change. Thank you.
That means we will need an amendment to the bill before final passage if the council is in agreement that those changes should be included. So if there are no questions on that, I would ask for a motion for that amendment. Made by Councilmember Bartoni. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Brost. So the debate now is on the amendment to the main motion. Is there any discussion on the amendment to amend Bill 2628? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the amendment to Bill, I'm sorry. Oh, Councilmember Garitano, my apology. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And so I just was seeking a little more clarity from Joe on this amendment here. You mentioned about preserving or something regarding the Slavic property. Could you clarify on that a little bit more?
Yes, Councilmember Garitano. As you know, the Town Center Update Team recommended that particular site be changed in terms of its town center land use designation from a combination of neighborhood general and neighborhood edge to the new district called Neighborhood Edge Transition. What that change would do is, for the most part, allow approximately 30 lots to occur on the property versus a dense development that has participated on it for the better part of 25 plus years, or the entirety of the existence of Wildwood. The Town Center Update Team's recommendation was forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission after it was completed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did not accept it. The process relative to the rezoning then proceeded forward, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a plan, as you know, that it was inclusive of 130 single-family dwellings on individual lots. The concern is that with the recommendation from the Town Center Update Team and the adoption of the plan as part of the Planning and Zoning Commission's action, because it came after the zoning was completed by it, that there may be a consideration to actually limit it to 30 lots. And for the most part, what this says is that given that it had been through the process, that that 30 lot plan would not be necessarily acceptable.
For the current application, is that it? Okay, good. Thank you for the clarification on that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for Joe or discussion on the motion to amend Bill 2628? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to amend the bill as indicated in the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the motion to amend has passed. We're now back to the bill itself as amended, Bill 2628. Is there any further discussion on Bill 2628 as amended? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2628.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano.
Yes,
Is that a yes?
that is correct. It's a yes vote.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
No.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Okay, Bill 2628 has passed and is in effect. Moving next to Bill 2629, it's before the council also for final passage, and it concerns two wards, Wards 7 and 8. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Flasher, second by Councilmember Garitano. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2629.
Bill 2629, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a transportation alternatives funds program agreement by and between the city and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in order to proceed with obtaining federal funding to design and construct the Old State Road Shared Use Path Project, second reading.
Thank you. Rick, any further information you want to add to what's been provided to the council concerning this bill?
No, Mr. Mayor, but I am available for any questions from the council.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Rick relative to Bill 2629? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2629.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Vote yes.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Okay, the bill passes.
Thank you.
Finally, moving into first readings, Bill 2630 is before the council and it concerns Ward 5. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember McCutcheon, seconded by Councilmember Bertolino. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2630.
Bill 2630, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390, traffic schedule 6, intersection stops, adopted by section 390.010 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood by enacting new intersection stop regulations at the intersection of Pond Grover Parkway with Green Pines Drive and Hickory Crest Drive, and authorizing and directing the city traffic engineer to erect appropriate signage reflecting such intersection stop regulations. First reading.
And this came from our Board of Public Safety. So, all right, Rick, do you have anything further you want to mention in addition to the information the council's been provided on Bill 2630?
Mr. Mayor, no, I do not, but again, I'm very happy to answer any questions from the city council.
Councilmember McCutcheon?
Yeah, Rick, would it be appropriate to go ahead and have a second reading this evening? I know I've had a lot of concerns from residents about safety, especially departing from the parking lot there.
I certainly would not be opposed if that's what the council desires to do.
You want to make that motion?
I do. I move that we go ahead and have a second reading for Bill 2630.
So we have a motion for second reading to be done at this meeting rather than at the meeting 2 weeks from now, seconded by Councilmember Bertolino. As you know, this will take a supermajority 2/3 vote. Is there any discussion on the motion for a second reading this evening? Seeing no discussion, I'm sorry, didn't see a hand. Councilmember Dodwell?
Just real quickly, Rick, will we have this signage that can go up before school starts?
Councilmember, I will make it a top priority that we'll get them installed as soon as possible. I can't guarantee that, but I would expect that we could, and we'll do everything possible to make that happen.
Just for safety's sake,
Sure.
running from school straight to the playground is always a fun thing for me.
So this will be a 2/3 supermajority vote. We'll try a voice vote first. If that is in question, we can do something different like a roll call. So all in favor of the motion for second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we do have the 2/3 supermajority met. Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2630 a second time.
Bill 2630, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390, traffic schedule 6, intersection stops, adopted by section 390.010 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood by enacting new intersection stop regulations at the intersection of Pond Grover Parkway with Green Pines Drive and Hickory Crest Drive, and authorizing and directing the city traffic engineer to erect appropriate signage reflecting such intersection stop regulations. Second reading.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the bill by any member of the council? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2630.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Bros.
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano.
I vote yes.
Councilmember Flasher.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni.
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Bill 2630 has passed and is in effect. Moving to the last of our first readings, Bill 2631, also from the Board of Public Safety, and it concerns Ward 1. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Clark, seconded by Councilmember Brost. All in favor of the motion for first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2631.
Bill 2631, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390, traffic schedule 9, parking restrictions of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood by enacting new parking regulations on Pond Road and authorizing and directing the city traffic engineer to erect appropriate signage reflecting such parking regulations. First reading.
Thank you. Rick, anything additional you would like to mention relative to Bill 2631?
Mr. Mayor, no, I don't have anything additional, but again, I'm available for any questions from the city council.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Rick relative to the bill or comments? All right, seeing none, the bill will be on the council's agenda for its next meeting. Moving next into resolutions, we have two. Resolution 2021-18 is before the council. It also concerns Ward 1. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-18? Made by Councilmember Brost, seconded by Councilmember Clark. Ms. Eldridge, please read the resolution.
Resolution 2021-18, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a maintenance contract with Native Landscape Solutions Incorporated for the community parks, rain garden, and bioretention basin areas, which are in need of significant care to restore the appropriate landscaping selections and remove invasive growths that have entered into these locations and damaged the balance.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Rick, do you have anything you want to mention? I'm sorry, Joe, do you have anything you want to mention relative to that?
Mr. Mayor, I do not, but I'm available for any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, just three things I would ask that you would provide for us if possible. And that would be a list of the plants that are planned to be planted. Plants planned to be planted. That was strange way of saying it, and a list of the anticipated herbicides and pesticides that will be used, and that material safety data sheets for each of those.
Thank you, Joe. I assume you got note of that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt Resolution 2021-18, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the last of our resolutions, Resolution 2021-19 is before the council. It concerns all wards. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-19? Made by Councilmember Farmer, seconded by Councilmember Bartoni. Ms. Eldridge, please read the resolution.
Resolution 2021-19, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with DJM Ecological Services Incorporated for restoration of the meadow area to a prairie environment within Bellevue Farms Park, consistent with the approved steps, specifications, and associated processes, that is through a Missouri Department of Conservation MDC grant awarded for use upon this unique public site located within the Merrimack River Recreation Corridor.
Thank you. Joe, anything you want to mention relative to Resolution 2021-19?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the entirety of this effort is paid through a grant from the Missouri Department of Conservation. I'm available for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Benich? Councilmember Clark.
Yes, I would ask for the same three items on that resolution: the plantings, the herbicide pesticides, and the MSDSs.
Thank you. Mr. Benich has noted that. Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's a dedicated group of citizens that are loving this park and doing tons and tons of free labor over there with planting and so forth. And they deserve a whole lot of credit. It's really going to be beautiful when they're done.
Thank you. Councilmember Dodwell.
I was going to ask if perhaps our city administrator or whoever does some of our public relations activity might reach out to a news feed somewhere or somehow post a story on our website about the collaboration that we've got with our partners that live next to this park, St. Louis County and the city of Wildwood. I think the partnership agreement that we've all worked so diligently to gain, the love of this particular area that many of us here on council who have visited, many residents of Wildwood who have visited and want to keep it as a park, as do the residents of Sherman. I really think we need to tout this as a collaborative agreement for all residents of the area and something that many cities do not do. So let's figure out a way that we can put that out to not only the Wildwood residents, but most of St. Louis County, if at all possible.
So without objection, we'll ask our city administrator to work with his team to put it on our Facebook page or what have you to publicize that. Any objection to that by any member of the council? All right, seeing none, any further discussion on resolution 2020, the motion to adopt resolution 2021-19? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the resolution is passed. Finally, under the consent agenda, we have 4 appointments. First one is Mike Lee, who Mr. Clayton is replacing, as you know, and Mike has served admirably on the Planning and Zoning Commission. He would like to stay involved, so I am appointing him to our Board of Adjustment. I think his engineering background, his knowledge of the city will serve all of us well there, and I'm excited that he's willing to continue to serve, frankly. Mr. Hubis, Jim, also a Board of Adjustment appointee as an alternate. Jim is currently serving on our Historic Preservation Commission and has approached me a couple of times about being more involved with the city. And then we have 2 reappointments. The first from Ward 6, Sal Handa. He's a trustee of the Hawks Rest subdivision, serves on our Board of Ethics. And second, Mr. Dave Beatty, another appointment, it's actually a reappointment to our Planning and Zoning Commission on behalf of Ward 8. If you have any questions on any of these 4 appointments, 2 appointments and 2 reappointments, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, since they're on the consent agenda, one motion could be made to approve all 4 in mass. Councilmember Ottenberg.
I will make the motion to approve all 4.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda is presented, seconded. I'm sorry, let's get a second. Seconded by Councilmember Garitano. That's why your hand is up, I assume, Joe. Thank you. Okay. Any discussion on the motion to approve the 2 appointments and the 2 reappointments? Councilmember Edens.
Yes, just that I'm excited to see some familiar names that are still interested in working with the city. And also, Sal has a unique perspective as a firefighter, and I think he would be good in the future on the Board of Public Safety. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. I think he and I have actually had a discussion about that. So appreciate that. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So I want to congratulate each of those and again, extend on behalf of all of us in our city an appreciation for their willingness to serve our residents. All right, that takes us to miscellaneous. Does any member of the council have something they'd like to mention? Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, as some of you certainly with younger kids might know, apparently Rockwood is having some difficulty finding people to drive buses. So for those families that I believe live within a 1-mile radius of any of the schools, there will be no buses and therefore a great deal larger, I guess, amount of either walkers or car riders. So I have been conflicted as to how, as I've been approached a number of times, how the city can help out with this problem. I don't really know the answer to it, but I do think that it's possible that this might certainly wind its way to us here very shortly if there is great traffic jams and or masses of children running across streets, which is what I can only imagine is going to occur. So I just wanted to get an idea from, or I guess put it on everybody's radar that I think that that's coming. I know my kids, one of my daughters goes to Green Pines. We're planning on putting out signs and there's parents that are going to go serve as crossing guards. I think that they've reached out to the police. If not, I'm sure they will, to try to kind of up the flow of patrolling, I guess, in that area. But just know that that is probably coming down the pike because I don't get asked very many questions, but literally every parent that knows I sit on this dais asks me what we're going to do about the buses.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Yeah, Joe, that's a issue that Deborah and I are very much aware of with Green Pines, and the captain back here in the corner. I don't know how many discussions we had this past year about the traffic congestion and potential safety problems at the times of drop off and pickup at Green Pines. It really boils down to cooperation by the parents. The principal there Greg sent many letters out to parents saying, please abide by our procedures in terms of lining up and collecting your child and so on. And parents continue to ignore that and clog the street. In some cases, kids running across the street to get in the cars, and it becomes a hazard. So we kind of got it under control at the end of the school year last year, but you're right, Joe, it's probably going to flare up again. So the real answer is get the message out to parents. It's really up to them to make it a safe drop off and pick up.
I would ask if there's no objection under the view of, using experts that we have on our team for what they do best. If our captain or our Board of Public Safety have any concerns, that those get raised and we discuss them, maybe in a work session or something like that. And it may be the case that they need to see how this rollout works before they get to that point, but just know that we would be receptive, I believe, if there's no objection to that kind of information, should we want to get ahead of the game and do something to prevent or ameliorate problems. So, all right, thank you for bringing that up. Anything else, Councilmember Bertolino?
Yeah, this may be a very minor issue, and this is probably for Rick Brown. And I may not be the only one, but I think the medians in the Old Manchester Road and the streetscape have really kind of gone to weeds, unless I don't understand the vegetation, but it looks like they're being overwhelmed by weeds. And can you give us any kind of feedback as to how that's going to be addressed?
Rick Brown, we're going to cut the weeds.
Well, yes, we are. I was going to say we're looking for volunteers, but I would be just kidding in that regard. We do have a work order out for our contractor to do that work, and I was hoping it would have been done last week already. If it had, you probably wouldn't be bringing it up tonight. So I'll double check on that and make sure it gets done right away.
And on a similar note, at the Coffee with the Mayor this last Thursday, there was a resident who brought up the fact that the vacant land on the south side of Manchester is substantially overgrown. That's the case. So while you're at it, if you want to, I don't know if you had any discussions with that landowner, but it would be nice if the entirety of that place looked better from a weed cutting standpoint. Rick.
I will be glad to check. I believe Joe Lynch may have been on the hook for that one, but we'll check on that tomorrow. Maybe talk about it at our staff meeting.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Councilmember Bertolino? Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for initiating the new resident picnic. I was fortunate to be there. Was it 2 weeks ago, I guess? We had a lot of new members of our community attend. They all said a lot of wonderful things about the city of Wildwood and the reason that they moved here, which was part of our original vision and mission for the city. And they got an opportunity then to meet other new residents, a lot of them with little kids. So thank you very much for initiating that. Very worthwhile. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just to add on to what you said, in putting it in practical terms and the benefits of that, not only do we get to meet those of us or those residents who put us in office and we work for, but other good things can come from it. For example, Mr. Preston, who is here tonight, and you just approved the appointment to our Board of Public Safety. That's where I met him.
And then I have one other item.
Go ahead.
If we could have some kind of information put on next session's work session regarding the construction date for the Birch Forest turnaround.
Without objection, we'll add that as an informational item, please, Madam Clerk, under the work session agenda for the next council meeting. Councilmember, anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nyan.
I was going to say exactly what Katie said, and thank you for the picnic. I also would, in that same regard, though, like to thank the city staff for setting it up and cleaning it up and taking time on their weekend to be there. So I really appreciate that. It was a great event.
Thank you. Anything else? The food was good. Councilmember Edens.
Yes, I was just wondering if this is something that the Planning and Parks would be amiable to take up, and I'm glad that Dave brought up some of the medians, but just it's been a hot, stressful summer for a lot of plants. Driving around the West County area, you can see issues in a lot of cities that are going through the same stress on their plantings as we are. And in addition to just the traditional maintenance that we do, replacing the dead plants, which I know we still have some more. I was wondering if we could just touch base with our consultant and see if there's any other recommended nutrient treatments or refertilizing or additional recommended watering dumps that we can do, so that what we have, even if it needs to be less and the herd needs to be thinned, so to speak, maybe take out trees and not replant them in the medians, that the quality of the plantings increases or at least remains stable. So maybe we can look at a cost item for fertilizing.
Rick, are we doing that currently? Rick Brown.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Edens. As far as the maintenance of some of the landscaping areas, in particular the newer ones, 109, say, or Route 100, we've engaged a contractor, Go Green, to do a lot of that work. So they have a regular maintenance routine when they come out, which includes fertilizing, it includes essentially weed prevention and that sort of thing. So in fact, that's the contractor that we've got the work order on Manchester to do the median islands on Manchester. So they'll start there and try to keep that in good shape from this point forward. So they do a lot of that thing. Now, your point is well taken relative to the hot summer. We have had some discussions internally about the trees, and more recently the Manchester Road streetscape trees. In fact, I may very well get our arborist out, Andy Berg, to take a look at some of those to get some ideas from him relative to things that we need to be doing that maybe we aren't doing. So I think the issues you've raised, we're trying our best to be on top of them, and hopefully we can avoid losing a lot of or any further landscaping due to the hot weather.
Okay, I appreciate you staying on top of it, and certainly I wanted to publicly signal that I'm amiable to the budget that we need to get things looking and staying good. As you know, we get complaints about the plantings on Strecker and maintenance of that, but also I know that there's some dead vegetation on the ones on 109 as well. But I also really appreciate Mayor Boland your words about Julian, but I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Jockwin. It's been my pleasure getting to serve with you as Chair of Economic Development, and I think secretly we all wish we were going with you. But we'll hold down the fort here, and we hope you come back to visit us and to hang out and see all the wonderful things that we have started just because of you and your efforts. So thanks again, and happy moving.
So back to your point, Councilor Edens, about the vegetation, I also think, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, certainly on the new plantings, I know, I know, fairly certain that when we did the new beautification places in the median of Highway 100, for example, between Taylor Road and West Glen Farms Drive, my recollection is that our landscape architect took into account the absence of, a sprinkler system and other things, so that he selected plants that would presumably have better survival rates than others. Is that correct, Rick?
No, that's absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we've worked with Ken Keitel with Terra Spec on those landscaped areas, and he's selected plants that do best with no irrigation, and that's the situation we have in most locations. On 109 in particular, on Strecker Road, on Route 100, all those areas are not irrigated. So there are limits, unfortunately, with what we can do with them, but we do our best to select those species that thrive in those conditions.
Thank you. And while we're on the topic of these areas that make our city look so much better, just to make a plug for it in advance, we're putting together the final touches of a recommendation that I'm going to present to the Admin Public Works Committee to do some additional beautification areas west of the 109 bridge out to Highway T, about 3 of them, I believe, or so that we bring into inclusiveness the entirety of our city in addition to town center. So anything else under miscellaneous? Seeing none, Councilor Garetano.
Okay. Yeah, I'll echo the comments that were made about Julian. You're going to be very much missed at our city here. It's been a pleasure to get to work with you. So thanks for all that you do. I'm still trying to get over Ken Remy leaving us. So now I have to deal with now Julian leaving us as well. And I'm sure Ken will be happy I mentioned him tonight. So speaking of it, I think he is. He's on online. So anyway, just wanted to say regarding the plannings, I echo what Councilmember Bertolino mentioned. In fact, had gotten 2 emails just prior to the meeting about it. So glad you brought that up. And those are the medians on Old Manchester Road. So I do see Ben Kruger, who's still on. And I did want to just comment about Center Avenue that Mr. Vunich provided an update on our work session agenda regarding that. And so it looks like we'll have some more information this week. And I do appreciate that, Joe. We want to bring that home and try to get Center Avenue resolved after so many years. And that's key. Lastly, just a plug for Celebrate Wildwood. So hopefully the council, you all start thinking about how you're going to decorate your golf carts, because those golf carts are back. Very excited about that. The parade route will be a little bit shorter, but otherwise glad that the Department of Planning and Parks were able to pull that off there. So thanks to Joe and Gary for that. Thank you. That's all I've got to say.
Can we get a head start on our carts before Councilmember Edens?
We
No,
should.
no. Y'all talking a big game, but this is a ward war that Don and I can win. So I'm just saying. We got some pride in Ward 2.
Okay, anything else under miscellaneous? All right, thanks for all the comments under the miscellaneous tonight. And now it's time for a motion to adjourn. So I would ask for a motion made by Councilmember Jaxie, second by Councilmember Farmer. It's non-debatable. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you.